This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories. And welcome to my recap and review of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Chapter 24, The Return. And sorry, this is a week late. As I explained before, I was sick for most of last week, although I still do have the cold. It is not as bad, and I was kind of losing my voice, so I did not want this video to be mediocre in quality and wanted to push it back until I was feeling good enough. And since I do feel good enough now, I am releasing it. So sorry for the delay. I did have a brief post that had my brief thoughts on it last Wednesday, but let's go straight into it. Bo-Katan leads Mandalorian forces through the wreckage of Mandalore, heading to an extraction point. They begin to blast through the enemies. Meanwhile, Den is imprisoned, being taken away. He manages to cut through some of the bonds holding him and begins to fight off the super commandos holding him prisoner. He is not able to do this well until Grogu comes in IG-12 and manages to rescue Din. The rest of the Mandalorians manage to blow a tunnel behind them, and this gives them some time. Back with Din, he contacts R5 to be able to hack into the base's systems and be able to pull up the schematics to get him to Moff Gideon. R5 flies down using his rocket thrusters as Din grabs a jetpack from one of the super commandos to have one in case he needs it. The Imperials finally prep their TIE interceptors and bombers launch to attack the Mandalorian fleet. Gideon tracks Din and Grogu as they move throughout the facility, and R5 manages to finally download the schematics and sends them to Din. Axe Wolves manages to reach the Mandalorian fleet, where he enters into it and tells everyone to abandon ship. He is going to be manning the light cruiser as a distraction, and everyone else is to go down to the surface to help out Bo-Katan. As everyone begins to flee and head towards the surface, just a few seconds later, the Imperial fleet comes out and begins to attack the former Imperial light cruiser now controlled by the Mandalorians. The cruiser takes major damage and begins to go down. Din reaches a hallway filled with Imperial super commandos behind different levels of shields. Din contacts R5 once again and tells him to open the gates one by one so he can fight his way through. And doing this for the first few, Din is unarmed and slowly uses the opportunity to fight through the different Imperials and to take more weapons so he can continue on in his fight. R5 is temporarily distracted by a mouse droid, and this gives Din just a few seconds to have him pleading for R5 to open the final gate, and R5 does go and do it, and Din manages to finish off the rest of the super commandos. Din and Grogu reach a room that is filled with clones, and Din is at first surprised and quickly realizes that Gideon has been cloning himself. Reassuring Grogu that they are only clones, Din sets all the pods to self-destruct as they continue on towards Gideon. The rest of the Mandalorians are in complete awe when they are brought to a cave filled with green plant life. Bo-Katan wonders what has happened here, and the Mandalorian survivors quickly explain that they were able to create farms in these caves after the bombing of Mandalore. Bo is really impressed and is quickly contacted by the other Mandalorians who have made it down so they can go for a final assault on Gideon's stronghold. Bo leads the army of Mandalorians, igniting the dark saber and taking the lead in the attack. Din and Grogu reach Gideon's command center and begin to look for Gideon. Gideon quickly reveals himself and begins to go off on Din for destroying his clones, which were supposed to be the ultimate project, making Force-sensitive clones of himself. Din goes in to fight Gideon, but stands no chance against Gideon's Dark Trooper armor and the Praetorian guards that are with him. Din is quickly beat down by them, and Grogu taunts the guards to come after him, leaving Din to deal with Gideon. Not wanting Grogu to do this, Din tries to finish off Gideon, but is not doing well. Bo-Katan flies in and knocks Gideon off and tells Din to go rescue Grogu and she'll deal with Gideon. Gideon grabs a weapon of the Praetorian Guards, using it to battle Bo with the Darksaber. The two begin their ultimate duel, with Gideon telling Bo-Katan she should just surrender to him. After losing IG-12, Grogu begins to jump around, avoiding the weapons of the Praetorian Guards. But when Din enters into the room, the two work together to defeat the guards, and after this victory, they head out to help Bo-Katan against Gideon. Sadly for them, the fight is not going well. With the enhanced Dark Trooper armor that Gideon has, he manages to break through Bo-Katan's defenses and crushes the Darksaber, damaging it so the blade can no longer be ignited. Din and Bo then go off on Gideon, using their weapons to keep some distance and start to wear him down. Axe Wolves abandons the Mandalorian controlled light cruiser and tells Bo Katan and all the other Mandalorians to abandon the Imperial base, since he's put the light cruiser on a direct collision course with Gideon's base to destroy it. Both Din and Bo are still stuck in combat with Gideon, and there is no way out for them, as the light cruiser blasts into a fiery explosion after crashing into the base. Gideon is consumed by the fire, and both Din and Bo go around Grogu trying to protect him, but Grogu, using the Force, manages to keep the fire from hitting any of them, keeping them all safe. Din, Bo, and Grogu all look upon the wreckage of the Imperial base. Seeing no signs of Gideon, they go to celebrate their victory. At the Sacred Waters, Pez Vizsla's son is once again given his ceremony to becoming a true Mandalorian, since the last was interrupted. Fully becoming a Mandalorian, he continues on. Din brings Grogu forward and says that Grogu will now become his Mandalorian apprentice. The armorer rejects this at first, saying that Grogu is too young to speak the creed, but Din points out if Grogu's parent does give him permission, then he could become a Mandalorian apprentice. The armorer points out that they don't know who Grogu's parents are. They could be dead or halfway across the galaxy, but Din says that he would like to formally adopt Grogu as his son. The armorer accepts this and tells Din that he must go off on his own now and begin to train Grogu like his master trained him when he was a child. She also declares that Grogu's new name is Din Grogu. Grogu reaches out with the Force and connects with the Mythosaur, and at the Great Mandalorian Forge, Bo-Katan lights it and claims her place as the leader of the Mandalorians. Mandalorians from both factions begin to hit their armor together, yelling for Mandalore. Din and Grogu go to visit Carson Teva in the New Republic base, and Din begins to make a proposal to him that he will help the New Republic clean out Imperial remnants from the Outer Rim since they don't have the resources to it. Tiva says that it would never be officially allowed, and Din says he knows, and he knows that Tiva won't be saying anything about it. Tiva agrees and gives Din the down payment he wants, being a IG head so he could fully repair IG-11. Din and Grogu go to Nevarro, where they meet up with Grief Karga. Karga agrees to give Din a house on the outskirts of the town where he could live in between jobs. Din then says he has a gift for Karga and Nevarro as he reveals the rebuilt IG-11 to be their new marshal. And Din, at his new house, sits back and watches as Grogu plays with a frog. And honestly, that was a solid finale for The Mandalorian. It wasn't a perfect season, but it worked overall. There was nothing really surprising in the finale, and that could be considered a weak part of it. But still, I enjoyed it overall, and thought they did a decent job with this season. The season is not as good as the previous two seasons, but the fact that it was still pretty decent is good to me, and I know that not everyone loved the season, but I did at least enjoy it, and I do think that it did a decent job with the story. Going into this finale specifically, it's cool to see what is, and hopefully the final death of Moff Gideon, since he did survive in Season 1 and managed to escape New Republic custody from Season 2, but even if this was a clone, I think that Gideon doesn't have much time left, and I feel like he will be executed by Thrawn most likely if he is still alive. I did keep things a little ambiguous in this just in case Gideon did turn out to be alive in the future, but I made it clear enough that he is most likely dead in that, and the story was pretty interesting in this. I do want to see where they continue with it. I think it was nice for Din to formally adopt Grogu, although I do think that it probably should have happened a lot earlier in the season, and this moment still could have been good where he has his new quest to train Grogu, and that could have been pretty easily done. I'm just saying that he wants Grogu to now become his apprentice. And yeah, honestly, it would work pretty well, and the story does have some weakness in it. It isn't, the perfect story, and it's really predictable, which is one of the big problems with it. They don't really do any risks or anything crazy, but I think the finale was a satisfying enough conclusion, although it seemed to act a little too much like a series finale, even though we know more is coming, and they easily could have ended the show here. But still, I am interested to see what they do with this season, and I do want to know what you think. So please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.